again. It is Crew Call presented by Flow Racing, the home of NASCAR roots and your digital home track. We are so glad you joined us. Steve Post, pit road reporter for Motor Racing Network, and I am joined by 25-time winning crew chief and a championship winning crew chief from Team Penske on the Cup side, Todd Gordon. Hello, Todd. How are you?
I'm doing great. Got a chance to be a spectator
You
up in
were
Indianapolis
you were
this
race
weekend.
fan. You were race fanning
Yes,
it
I
in.
was. Sat over there in turn 8 up on the grassy knoll. My wife and I pulled a couple chairs up. That was a different experience. I told her, I said, I've never seen this place not from pit road.
Pit box,
it was cool to be out there. What a great fan base out there.
Yeah, it really truly is. That is for sure. And when we look at the race at Indianapolis, we've spent a lot of time this year talking about a fair amount of time what's going on at Richard Childress Racing, and we had Randall Burnett on earlier this year, and we're both like, this team is bursting at the seams.
Mm-hmm.
This team just seems like they had the near miss at Bristol. The first part of the year, Tyler was up front all the time. When's he going to win? When's he going to win?
Yep.
Well, they finally figured out the key to victory lane, and now this team has put themselves at the front. They had a great day up there.
Yeah, definitely. I thought definitely the class of the field and a race that they just did it their way, and it was really cool to even once Ross Chastain shortcut the turn one and got in front of him. He didn't let that deter him. He figured out how to get back by him. Just a lot of pace in that car all day long, and you know they've even with the announcement after the win at Road America and a little turmoil there, it shows they're just back to focus on racing.
To me, and I was talking to one of our MRN affiliates, we were talking about that and the turmoil or potential turmoil. And we never know how these things are going to go. The wheels could fall off at any point. We all understand that that's the competitive. The wheels could fall off a perfectly functioning team with a driver under contract for 4 years. So that's just the nature of it. But they have a really unique opportunity to, I think, maybe run a little deep into this playoff, maybe even make it to Phoenix, and nobody loses. Richard Childress is sitting there with a team looking for sponsorship, looking for drivers with sponsorship. Everybody wins if they squeeze all the performance out of this thing over the next year and a half, and particularly this year, they can really set themselves all up for a bright future with this.
Yeah,
thing.
and it's honestly, I know there's some challenges in having the announcement and learning that you're losing a driver that you feel like has got a bright future with him, but in a lot of ways, there's 18 months for them to kind of put together the plan for what happens next, and 18 months of if they embrace each other, which it looks like they've done. It's of how do we show the potential of this race team, and he's already shown his potential as a race car driver, but how these guys to filling that seat, to finding the sponsorship, to finding the driver, he goes out. They've won 2 races this year. He goes out and wins a couple more and. That becomes a pretty prestigious seat that you want to fill.
A lot of people knocking on that door.
So it can be a great situation for both. And there's the piece that you've lost something that you thought could be pretty special, but the time frame that's given here, I think is actually a benefit to Richard and the whole organization of they can have a great year and a half here and build their resume to fill that, to bring sponsors in, to do the things they need to do.
Well, and honestly, how many times do we go into contract years with uncertainty? There's no uncertainty here.
Right.
We don't have to, all of us reporters are not going to wear Tyler out like we're wearing out Kyle Busch right now, and Joe Gibbs and everybody on that team. None of that is going to happen with that 8 car.
And Tyler and Richard can just focus on winning races.
Yeah.
It's all done.
It's all done.
It's all done. So all we got to do now is just focus on what we're going to do in the next 18 months. We know that. So I think in a lot of ways, I mean, obviously there's sponsorship stuff that we don't know all the details in the background, but 2 years down the road, looking back at this will actually, I think there's a lot of benefits to it coming out this early, that they can just focus on what they want to do to get themselves in a position for where they're going to be 18 months from now.
Boy, especially with that performance they have right now, my gosh, they could set themselves up for something really special over the next few months.
I think Tyler has a good shot of getting to the Final Four.
I do too.
He's an up and comer, and one that, I mean, we've seen it. I know when I was at Team Penske, Tyler drove one of Brad's trucks.
That's right, exactly. He's part of that the Brad Keselowski school of NASCAR.
Yeah,
I mean, you want to talk about an impressive list.
Yes,
holy cow!
His truck team has definitely catered to a lot of people.
Yeah.
that have made it to Cup careers.
Yeah.
So you look at it, it's been pretty special.
We're way, way, way ahead of ourselves. But Tyler Reddick makes it to Phoenix. Remember Phoenix in the spring?
Yeah.
It was him and Chase Briscoe
Yes.
battling for the win.
Yeah. I think it'd be interesting to see where it all goes.
We're there's
We're
a lot
way out in
gonna
front of
happen.
our skis.
There's a lot going to happen here, but my God, we're not out of the. We're not too far ahead of the skis. This past Sunday, they won the race.
Yes.
You know,
And you could put together. I mean, you could put together an argument for
sure
for any of 18 race teams right now because
Yeah.
we don't know who it's going to be, right?
Right.
14 winners, and
Jesus.
it'd be fun to watch these next four.
be
You talk to
just-
Jonathan today.
Yeah, Jonathan
today
Hassler
we'll
was our
talk
guest
to
here
him
today. Yeah.
and see where what his thoughts are because they're the first in points, but I don't know that they're safe. So let's see what he says.
Yeah, he is exactly. He's Team Penske, Ryan Blaney's crew chief. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk to Jonathan Hassler here today on the program. We'll do that in just a moment. You can subscribe to Flow Racing, the new home of NASCAR Roots. Catch NASCAR Wheel and Modifieds, ARCA Menard Series, NASCAR Pinty Series, and NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Racing Series. Over 1,300 events live and on demand. When we look at this coming weekend, the headliners, Saturday night, the ARCA Menard Series at Michigan, that's on Flow Racing. And Sunday, the NASCAR Pinty Series, the Grand Prix Three Rivers. I'm not going with the French. I'm going Three Rivers. Trois Rivieras. Yes, Three Rivers, okay? American boy here. That's on Sunday afternoon. Weekly racing, Riverhead, Berlin, South Boston, Hickory, Langley, Florence, Bowman Gray, Lacrosse, All-American, and Alaska Raceway Park. A lot of great racing. You can subscribe and get information at www.flowracing.com/GoMRN. That's flowracing.com/GoMRN. Stay with us. Jonathan Hassler joins us in a moment. Welcome back. It is Crew Call presented by Flow Racing, the home of NASCAR Roots and your digital home track. So glad that you have joined us, and let's go to the hotline. Joining us from over at Team Penske, he is the crew chief for Ryan Blaney on that number 12 car. Jonathan Hassler joins us. Hello, Jonathan. Welcome back to Crew Call.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me.
It is always good to talk to you, and headed to Michigan this weekend where Ryan had some success last year. We'll talk a little bit about that, but Jonathan, just kind of, the 2/3 mark of the season, you guys are having some success point-wise. You won the All-Star race. Where are you at? How are performance? What are you working on? What are you concerned about? Where are you guys at overall, big picture?
Yeah, big picture, I feel like we've been to, a lot of different types of racetracks and been very competitive and been in the hunt for wins, like I said, at a lot of different tracks. So very proud of the season that we've put together so far and feel like we just need to keep working at it. I think it wouldn't be out of line at all for us to, click off a couple wins and totally kind of flip the script a little bit on how things look. So we're going to keep working on trying to get better.
We'll stay on big picture then. How do you balance point situation versus chasing wins at this point with the last 4 races of the regular season?
Yeah, last week at Indianapolis was certainly a tough one. We felt like going in that the strategies were probably going to be, to take points and maybe give up track position. But kind of the way the race worked out without a lot of fall off, we had an opportunity to get some points and maintain track position with a little bit different strategy. So kind of got to take it, race by race and lap by lap and try and understand where we're at with the 19. Whether our car has enough speed to win. And, obviously if we have the speed to win, we'll certainly do what we can to put ourselves in that position.
And you talked about strategy last weekend. That was one of the things I want to talk about. It looked like there was a couple different strategies that worked out pretty well. I thought the 20 and 23, I think they pitted first stage, but then went long because they came to another pit opportunity. And you guys stayed out. You got to see some speed there and then put yourself in a position where you could fuel only at the end. Was your strategy, did you have your strategy built going into the weekend, or did that kind of evolve during the race into what you wanted to do?
Yeah, it was certainly tough. Like I said, going in, we felt like the strategy looking at last year was probably going to be to, if we had the speed to win, we were probably going to need to flip both the first and second stage and give up stage points. But we realized kind of after practice that there really wasn't a lot of tire wear and there didn't seem to be a lot of fall off either. So we definitely had that kind of in the back of our heads. If that continued to play out in the race, we could probably do a different strategy, do a two-stop strategy, and have an opportunity for both stage points and track position late in the race. And it seemed like there wasn't a lot of fall off. So yeah, we kind of went that direction, and ended up doing the fuel only late in the race. Thought that was an opportunity to get ourselves out in front of the eight. If we executed perfectly, and we kind of missed it a little bit, both me and Ryan, on executing that perfectly, and ended up kind of behind the eight, but still had good track position compared to the rest of the field, and we're still able to be in contention with the last couple yellows in the race.
How do you manage the personal frustration of doing everything pretty good, getting yourself in position? Yeah, it didn't work out. You're ahead of the eight, but you're still in the range. And then turn one happens. How do you, as a crew chief, manage that?
Yeah, for me, I've been racing for a long time. I realize there's things that I can control and things that I can't, and that's certainly in the line of things that I can't control. And while it's frustrating, you just got to kind of move on and go on and take it, lap by lap. So certainly out of my control. Can't worry about it. Can't let it frustrate me.
Mm.
Outside of a win to lock yourselves into the playoffs, what do you think your team needs to work on to be playoff ready the next 4 races?
Oh man, I feel like big picture, the kinds of tracks that we've kind of struggled at. We've struggled at the mile and a half so a little bit. We've struggled at the rougher racetracks a little bit. So that's certainly a focus for us as we go through the rest of the year.
Well, we'll see what happens. You had the good speed. You talked about the decent speed you had at Indy. We're 5 road courses into this thing, and Watkins Glen is one of these tracks coming up. Then there's the Roval in the playoffs. How do you feel overall about your road course program? And are those 2 opportunities to maybe get some race wins?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm coming off the Indy. We felt like we're really good at Coda. We were pretty respectable at Sonoma. First half of the race at Road America, we struggled a little bit, but kind of found something as the race went on. Incorporated a lot of that into what we took to Indy, and had we were pretty strong from the time we came off the truck. So Watkins Glen's always been a really good track for Ryan. So I'm excited to go there. I think we'll be in a position to go try to win that one.
And building off of that, not only you talk about the buildup of the races coming to Indy, but it looked like Team Penske as a whole made a fairly decent step forward at Indy. I think all 3 of you qualified in the top 6, and Harrison Burton ended up finishing 3rd there. Who I know you guys technically support that program. So was there a step there, and do you think that plays forward into Watkins Glen as well?
Yeah, you're obviously very familiar with the sport, Todd, and you realize, when you have a down week, we all kind of struggled at Road America. So we all, dug pretty deep and had some different ideas on what to do, some small things to do to try and be better, and we all incorporated some of those, and definitely played out well for us.
The inconsistency, and it's not just you guys. You talk about you struggle a little bit at Road America, and you're able to bounce back and have a good run at Indy. It seems like, with the exception of recently Chase Elliott and maybe Ross Chastain over the course of the season, we've seen this inconsistency from everybody. Is that kind of a state of how challenging the sport is right now, how tight the competition is right now? Is that what that's a statement of? Because we haven't really seen anybody just kind of, like I said, on Chase Elliott recently, kind of get their arms around this thing.
Yeah, I think it's very much a sign of how close the field is. You miss it on one thing on a given weekend, and that small increment is enough to set you back. But on the flip side of that, it's just a couple of little things, week in and week out that you can find that can also put you on the upside of that.
Mm. And I guess Richmond really gets to be your first opportunity to go back to a racetrack. To have a notebook. Do you think that once we get back to these places for a second time, that the field becomes a little tighter because the notebook that they've got on this car?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a good chance of that. Not only are we going back to tracks for a second time, but you've raced a lot of similar racetracks as well since then. Learned some different things. So yeah, everybody's going to continue to get better, and you can't sit idle. You got to make sure that you're getting taking bigger steps than the guys you're racing.
Jonathan, we've been talking a lot of big picture stuff. I want to even go a little bit larger big picture. You and I chatted on Crew Call last year, and you had talked about prior to getting the opportunity to crew chief the Wood Brothers, you really put your arms around the next gen race car when it was in the development stages at Team Penske and even within NASCAR as a whole. We're 18 months later. We're 2/3 of the way through the season. How's the science project turned out? Is it anything similar to what we had back in January, February, the beginning of last year? And how kind of assess how that has all come together for you guys to now be the car we're using.
Yeah, I commend everybody that on the NASCAR side that was involved in the project. I think you've definitely seen like we are just talking about, competition is a lot closer. We're able to do things from a car standpoint that we definitely weren't able to do in the past in terms of the car that we will race next week. Each and every week really isn't track specific or track type specific. It's really comes down to which one's ready to go next, just because of what they've done with the build. So I think as a sport we've definitely taken a really good step.
I know that being a Cup crew chief was on your radar when I got to Team Penske, and we worked together back in 2011 in the Xfinity Series, then nationwide. But did a really nice job with the 21 last year. What's it like to lead a championship contending team?
Oh, it's been a lot of fun. It's a great team around me. Ryan has been a great guy to work for. We share a lot of common interests, obviously outside of racing, which really helps. And he's despite maybe what people hear on the radio during the race, he's actually a pretty low key guy, pretty easy to work with. So it's been a lot of fun, and look forward to the rest of the year.
How do you? Okay, I asked you how you managed turn one at Indy. When you have a driver chewing on you like that, I'm always curious about this, and I never put much stock in it. We'll hear the clips, we'll do that radioactive thing, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, this team's in trouble. This team is that." How do you How do you manage that as well?
Yeah, it's been interesting. One thing that I've realized this year is just how much as a crew chief you sort of respond to the needs of your driver. I felt like with Matt last year, I was a lot more of a cheerleader. He responded well to that. I think with Ryan, he doesn't need a lot of talking to. He's a pretty quiet guy, and I tend to be pretty quiet with him. Our radio is usually pretty quiet. When he has his little outbursts in the race, a lot of times I don't even respond, and give it a couple laps, and then kind of try to move forward. And he'll be upset during the race, and then we'll get to the airplane after the race, and have a pretty calm discussion, good discussion about how things went. So just like I said, adapt to kind of what your guy needs, and give him the best you can.
Yep.
Yeah, he talks about it. Ryan, outside of the helmet being on, is as low key as it
I
can
know,
be, and,
yeah,
and great. And honestly, I think you're doing a great job with him there. Letting at times the steam's got to come off and then focus back in. He's doing a great job with that. Looking forward, going to Michigan this week. Kind of Rogers' backyard, Ford's backyard. Pretty important race for corporate side. How do you think that this race will be different than what it was with the last car now that we got the next gen car there?
Yeah, I'm certainly interested to see how it races. Obviously we have the change in car off. Typically we've had the last couple of years we've had the higher downforce, higher drag package. It's looked a lot more like a speedway race, a little bit. Obviously handling is going to be a little bit more in play, but it's certainly very hard to pass there. And these cars, I think at a lot of the more one lane racetracks, it's been track position has been more important than ever. Obviously we always talk about it, but I think it'll be very hard to pass. I think it'll be a very kind of strategic kind of race, and different than obviously than the road courses. You can't pit there under green or anything like that. So you'll see a lot of different strategies as cautions come out, and guys trying to do whatever they can to get to the front of the field.
So when you look back at the history this year with this race car and the mile and a half, 2 mile, auto club, which is just forever ago also, are there baselines from certain specific tracks that you're going to apply when you get started up there?
Yeah, I think there are a few tracks that we ran that are kind of similar to how Michigan will play out. Texas is probably the most similar. Still has some differences, obviously, with the banking being a little bit different. Kansas is pretty similar as well. So we were really good at Texas. We really struggled at Kansas. So I think we have a good understanding of why we were good at one and why we struggled with the other. So try to put our best foot forward with that information.
Yeah, you won at Texas, so that when you said Texas, that makes me pretty excited about what's going on coming up for you. Steve brought up California. We saw left rear tire durability being an issue at California. I know the place is a lot rougher, but do you see that being a challenge coming into Michigan? Because as you talk about strategies and pieces like that, I would think two tire calls and some of those will play this weekend as well.
Yeah, so I'm not expecting a lot of left side tire issues this weekend. Um, there was a tire test at Michigan earlier in the year, and the test actually ended early with a left rear tire failure. But since then, they brought a Speedway construction that's a good bit more durable. We haven't had any issues with failures at the Speedways that I can remember. So I'm hoping that that's not something that we have to contend with this weekend.
Well, we'll see what happens with it. Michigan, as Todd mentioned, a very important race. Do you sense that when it comes to Roger built the place, and or owned the place for so long? Ford, obviously, the backyard of Ford. Do you, as a crew chief, is there a sensation? Do you understand all of that? I mean, I think you understand it. Do you sense that? Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely sense it. You see it a little bit. Before the race, there's some different faces in the garage. There's some different events and activities kind of, during the week that kind of lead up to it. But I think once you get into the race weekend, you try to approach kind of each and every single week, kind of with the same mentality, and you win. You want to win each and every one of them. So kind of focus on it and kind of do the same thing.
Jonathan, last year when we talked on Crew Call, we went off racing topic and we talked about your passion for music, your love for music. You talked about you and Haley, your wife, and like you'd like to go on off weekends and do music adventures. Well, now you're a Cup Series crew chief. You don't have any off weekends. Well, you had one. Is it putting a crimp into your music touring, or are you finding other ways to enjoy the live music that you and your wife love so much?
Yeah, live music is a little bit harder for sure. I certainly show up to work each and every day and kind of turn music on as soon as I get into my office. It's kind of my way to kind of relax and kind of let everybody know that, it's this, we're here, we're, we're doing the job that we love. So let's, have fun with it. We try to see some live music for sure during the week. And, we got to go see a good friend, Nicholas Jamerson, on the off weekend. So we're still doing the best we can.
No, it's tough. It really is. Todd was talking, we were talking that, honestly, with the off season or lack of off season, it has been a long grind for you guys. And I am sure that once we hit Phoenix, win, lose, or draw in the championship, not only some music, but some ski trips on the agenda as well. You probably have earned a couple of those as well.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to them.
Neat stuff, that is for sure. Jonathan, it's always a pleasure to chat with you. Congratulations on the solid season, the strong season, and we'll see what happens as we move forward and closer to the playoffs. But thanks for joining us here on Crew Call. We always appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Todd. Have a good morning.
There we go. Jonathan Hassler, crew chief for Ryan Blaney over at Team Penske. Stay with us. More Crew Call in just a moment. Welcome back. It is Crew Call presented by Flow Racing, the home of NASCAR roots. Really, truly enjoyed our visit with Jonathan Hassler. Always fun to catch up with crew chiefs and touch base and see what's going on. In this case, your old stomping grounds up there.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of ties back and forth. Obviously, took over my office and race team, and he's done a great job with it. His interaction with Ryan's been phenomenal this year. I think they've had a lot of speed all season long, and won the All-Star race. I still feel like they've got a win coming in the regular season, but doing a great job up there. He was my engineer when I first got to Team Penske in 2011. So
Neat.
we've got a background that goes back a ways. A really, really solid, individual who works hard. He's really dedicated to getting things done, and it shows on the
It
racetrack.
shows. Yeah, it really does on the racetrack. We have chatted with you. One of the subtopics we've had over the course of this year is you adapting to your new role, not being a crew chief.
Yeah.
And I think we started off with the very first interview, might have been with Alan Gustafson or Cliff Daniel or something like that. And one of the first things was, what's it like having a Penske guy interview a Hendrick guy? What's it like having a Penske guy interview a Penske guy? I mean,
awkward.
that's, yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, as your new role, but you do a serious show. You had to interview Ryan Blaney, your driver, as the first time. How has that gone for you? I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, there's several. The relationship with Ryan was strong. So when we made the transition to the off season, and bringing him off the radio, I think that one was easier. To interview Jonathan taking my job, he didn't take my job.
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
but
no, he followed you
filling
in that,
the void that I left. And then there's so many relationships I have within that race team.
yeah,
That's a group that I'm still pretty passionate about
yeah,
keeping up
it's
with.
neat, yeah.
And I got to go. I went to the racetrack as a fan this weekend at Indianapolis. Stopped there on the way back, and I cruised through the garage and I saw all the 12 guys because it's just that's my family,
Yeah.
So and I saw Jonathan there too as well, and he's done a great job with it. It's just awkward to so much about his environment that you don't want to ask like bad questions.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it's
you've got it. Yeah,
so you try to find the things that are right, and like I said, a quality person. He's done a
Yeah.
great job. He's earned every bit of what he's done, and he's really dedicated to making speed over there at Team Penske.
a Purdue Boilermaker.
Yeah, and they had he and his wife are both from the Indiana area,
Yeah.
so pretty big race this weekend. I think he told me he had 29 tickets he had to buy up in turn one,
Wow,
family
neat
wise
stuff.
and everything else. So.
Neat stuff. Yeah, great stuff. I really enjoy it. Really love the talking to the crew chiefs. And yeah, Michigan this weekend. What are you talked a little bit about it with Jonathan? Left side tire concerns. What now? Listening to Jonathan, getting his assessment. What are you going to be watching this weekend?
See whether we have to run in one groove up there and a little bit of grip, or whether they can widen the racetrack out.
Yeah.
The stagger to the right seems to work with this car, and it didn't used to. The right side used to be really dirty air in the old car, but it's not in this car. So see whether they can get too wide. He brought up a really good point. We've been on higher downforce and about wide open around this place where you draft and suck up to each other. With lower downforce and more lift time, it's going to be about handling. So we'll see where it goes. I'm still curious. I mean, this is my history
right.
there, but winning qualifying at Michigan Speedway is the biggest benefit of any racetrack on the circuit. He talked about track position is a big deal, but pit road, the pit stall one is the biggest advantage you'll have on any pit stall.
Really?
On
So
the circuit.
it is the number one
By far.
If
If you
Todd
look at-
Gordon can win one pole position to impact that race, it's Michigan.
I've won 4 races at Michigan.
Well, that's true.
And I think 3 of them were from the pole.
Wow.
I think so. That's off of memory only, but
Right.
winning the pole on at Michigan, pit stall 1 to the camera line is 15 feet. Pit road speed is 55 miles an hour. So you have like a
huge
huge
difference.
advantage because you don't have to get back up to speed.
Right.
You just got to roll out of the box and trip the camera
Yeah.
line. When you get to the yellow line, the guy that's in pit stall 1 may beat the field out, but he might be 4th or 5th by the time he gets
Because
to the
of
yellow line
momentum,
because of the momentum of the rest of
after
the cars.
after the line. Yeah.
So it's winning on Friday or Saturday,
Saturday,
I
right.
guess, in this point. It used to be Friday.
yeah.
Winning on Friday or Saturday. I'll get back to that. Hold
Win on
hold
Sunday.
habits
Well,
die.
on Ford's win on Sunday, sell on Monday, but you got to win on Saturday.
You got to win on Saturday, and that puts you in a great position because the 2 tire calls. I think we had at one point. I had almost 200 laps on the left sides, just because. No, 200 miles. I guess it was.
Yeah.
But over 100 laps.
Wow.
Just because you had to maintain track position, and it'd be interesting to see what happens this weekend.
Fascinating stuff, that's for sure. Todd talks about qualifying. That does lead our coverage from Michigan International Speedway this weekend, 12:30 Eastern Time, NASCAR Cup Series, practice and qualifying. It's a busy day at Michigan. Coming up at 3 o'clock Eastern Time, the NASCAR Xfinity Series, the New Holland 250, and we're not done with the Xfinity Series is done. 6:30 Eastern Time on Saturday evening, the ARCA Menards Henry Ford Health 200. So triple header coverage right here on Motor Racing Network on Saturday and Sunday. The Firekeeper Casino 400 MRN airtime with our NASCAR Live pre-race show with host Mike Bagley 2 p.m. Eastern time for the NASCAR Cup Series. It is going to be awesome. Michigan's one of those places where we used to go to twice a year, and it was very routine.
Yes.
Now going back once a year, I'm so fired up about getting up there. I just can't wait to get up there and have a look around and see what we got. That racetrack is always fun.
Yeah, it is, and what an awesome environment, the infield and everything else. I mean, it's the fan base up there is passionate. It's really a cool event. Out in the Irish Hills and a lot of lakes around there. It's a really cool environment to get to, and a special race.
Special race, that is for sure. So really fun stuff. Hey, we do appreciate so much Jonathan Hassler joining us here on the program. More important, though, than all of that, we appreciate you joining us here on Crew Call. This is presented by Flow Racing, the ultimate digital home track for race fans everywhere. Whether it's dirt, asphalt, drag, off-road, you can find it. And you can also you can find it on Flow Racing and learn more at www.flowracing.com. Again, thanks for joining us here on Crew Call, presented by Flow Racing.